Hello, my name is Jayne MacLean, coordinator of the Alternative Farming Systems Information Center at the National Agricultural Library. We are in Boone, Iowa today, February 13th, 1991, at the farm of Dick and Sharon Thompson. We have been looking at a successful, low-input, sustainable farming enterprise that has become widely known as a research and teaching farm. Dick Thompson is the teacher. At his annual field days and demonstrations, and at meetings and conferences, Dick shares the knowledge he has gained through trial and experience. As a prominent innovator, he is listened to by researchers, educators, and especially other farmers. Jane Gates, assistant coordinator of the AFSIC, will interview Dick Thompson today about his farming systems and the methods he uses, which limit the use of pesticides, commercial fertilizers, and other purchased inputs. Sitting in the comfortable kitchen of the farmhouse and looking out at the neat buildings and the snow-dusted fields of black Iowa soil, it is not hard to imagine the busy scene a month or so from now. We want to thank the Thompsons for letting us come to visit.
Dick Thompson, it's really good of you to have us here in Boone or outside of Boone at your farm in midwinter when it's pretty cold, but you do have some spare time for us.
Well, this is a very nice opportunity.
Thank you. I wanted to find out what makes Dick Thompson Dick Thompson. What makes you the innovative farmer that you are, that makes other farmers come to you and come to your farm and read about what you're doing? How'd you get here?
I don't know how to answer that question, but how I got here, this is my home farm. I was raised here and went to school at Iowa State, got married, and then the wife and I spent a year in Japan in the service.
Were you in the Army?
I was in the Air Force,
Oh.
and then came back home, and my dad wasn't quite ready to retire at that time, so I went back to school and
Back to Iowa?
Yeah, and got a master's degree in animal production, and then in 1958 we started farming here, and have been farming here ever since.
And you told me before we started the camera rolling that you have 4 children and 8 grandchildren?
That's right.
And one son works with you here on the farm?
Yes, our youngest son does not live here, but he lives in town and comes out every day. And when we're gone in the wintertime, we're gone quite a bit doing programs, and between Rex and our hog herdsman, who is Dale Hansen, that takes care of the hogs at the other place, they take care of things. Mm-hmm. Then in the summertime, when we do trials and tours, then it takes all 4 of us to kind of, hopefully we're keeping ahead of everything.
I started to ask you, Dick, about pronouns. I'm always pronoun conscious, and you were saying we, and I assume you met yourself and your wife Sharon?
Yes, yes.
She and you and she write together and work together, and you consider yourself pretty much partners?
Yeah, yes, it's a team effort. When we do programs, we have an agreement that she does the narration on the slides, and then I do the discussion and question period afterwards. And we just got back from Ridgedale Conference, where there were...
Now, where was that?
This was in Sioux City. Mm-hmm. It's the 5th one, and they were right close to 1,000 people. They didn't quite make it.
That's incredible, a number of people.
And a very excellent conference, and there was just no way. I felt really drained this morning. You know, I think people take things from you.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And
you have a lot to give, but you have to go and replenish yourself.
So not having to worry about the dialogue is a great help. Mm-hmm. And relaxes, and hopefully you can be a little creative in that stress time, and maybe get a new thought and be able to answer questions and be a facilitator. I really like that. Mm-hmm. Somebody will ask a question out of the audience, and if I'm really doing it well, I can get somebody on the other side of the room to answer it. So that's...
And you get an interaction going, which
yes.
is much better than just having you be the guru that's standing up there answering.
Right. Because there's a Well, I think there's really a hard, fast rule that you should have if you've got an hour program, 30 minutes should be presentation, the last half should be with the audience.
And that's pretty much what went on at this conference?
Right, that's what we did.
Who sponsored the Ridgetill conference?
This is Fleischer Manufacturing out of Columbus, Nebraska, that makes Buffalo Ridgetill equipment.
And that's one of the pieces of equipment that you use here?
Yes. And there are other companies now that are making this equipment, but Fleischers were the first ones to make Ridgetill equipment. And in 1966 is when Ernie Bain and I started on this adventure. And did your father farm conventionally or traditionally or with using? Well, it's kind of hard to know what words to use.
Yes, you heard me stumbling.
How
did he farm? Maybe I should
well,
say
he had the 5-year rotation that I come back to. So was that traditional or was it conventional or was it sustainable? So I guess it matters whether you're looking forward or looking back. But he was using conventional tillage. So when I got out of school and came back here in '58, we started with very high input. Went to continuous corn and high input of anhydrous and insecticides and herbicides that all went with that program. And it seemed like things were not working. Lots of stress. Lots of investment. We were buying feeder pigs and feeder cattle. Good friend of the banker. Nothing against bankers, but it was more than it should be. And we didn't change because of financial pressures, but it was just like seemed like there should be a better way to do this. And so when we made the transition in 1967, we went back to the 5-year rotation that my father had used previously. And then through time we had added Ridgetill to that. And then how do you put cover crops into that? How do you put livestock waste and human waste into that program, into a system? So it's some of the old and some of the new, and I think that's really where it's at. It's how we sort, how we pick and choose what fits our own particular needs.
Was your father involved in any of this transition process, or was he retired by then?
Well, he retired when we came back to the farm in '58, but farmers don't retire.
Never really retire.
No. So he was out here helping us till, I don't know how many years, but some years after that, yes.
Well, you mentioned the firm in Sioux City that sponsored the conference. Are there other firms, are there people that you particularly wanted to mention as having influenced you or been helpful to you? We had talked briefly about Bob Rodale before, before we started our interview.
That's one very important, that Bob Rodale wrote what I felt on the inside. And I thank him for that.
Yes.
Others, you kind of caught me off guard on that. Maybe some other things will come along, but since we were kind of at the beginning of this, there weren't many places to go. We got involved with some products which I've had trouble with since that time, that it's more principles that make this whole sustainable, or whatever word we want to use, make it work, rather than it is buying something. When we were overspending to one particular segment of agribusiness, and just to turn around and overspend to another segment of agribusiness, that really does not solve any problems in agriculture. So we have to learn how to take those pieces. And I'm not saying we don't use anything, we have to know what fits. So when we ask, put on a program, we tell people not to accept our whole program. Don't accept anybody's whole program.
Because it doesn't apply to their situation.
Right. You adapt something, pieces here and pieces there that fit your situation, and I think that's a very safe recommendation that because people are very vulnerable now and have been because of farm crisis, the environmental programs, or being conscious of the environmental problem. And so they start pointing fingers that, you know, the problem is out there and blaming other people, and they're very vulnerable, and somebody comes along with a new idea and they're just so vulnerable they just hop on that bandwagon and really go with it and probably don't use the best judgment calls. And so we're trying to help people through that transition so they don't make too many mistakes. We say put in strips, run your own test, and do it well enough that the academics will, that we can do statistics on it and find the truth for the farmers, for my needs, and also for the needs of other people. And it will be accepted by the whole community, farmers as well as researchers and extension people. There's no sense of having rifts here, of fighting and competitiveness. We need to learn how to complement one another. So that's kind of what's been going on. It's made it exciting. Kind of took on a new way of life, or a new job, really. After I won't mention the years. Okay.
I won't ask.
Okay.